Weekend
Warriors.
Warriors come to play.
Yeah, here we go.
Good Saturday morning, everybody. We are broadcasting live from the Weekend Warrior Studios in beautiful Peoria, Arizona. I am Ralph Romano, alongside my partners in crime. You know them. We've got the legendary Philip Amorine and Mr. Luke Wright.
And of course,
And this is the Weekend Warriors.
this is the Weekend Warriors. You know what? I wasn't prepared for that. I'm going to be honest.
You weren't. Let's make a wish about that.
Oh, yikes. Yikes. Save the show for the show, Ralph. All right, here we go. If you want to join the show, speaking of it, you can join us.
Make a wish.
Make a wish, and you too can be on the show by joining us on any of our social media platforms that you are finding us being streamed live, whether that be X,
What? X? What else?
YouTube,
And?
Kindle.
Yes.
He got it. Maybe he got it.
Maybe Facebook. Maybe. But yes, find us anywhere, comment, and you too can have a comment being read on the show live. Special shout out, by the way, we did do a live stream of the first round of the NFL draft earlier this week on Thursday. Special shout out to Raven Kidd, who has a future in this business. His teases were phenomenal.
Truly spectacular.
Yeah, it threw Luke for a loop each and every pick.
I loved it.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh, I thought it was going to be here, but if oh my goodness, it was great."
Well,
And
remember,
then-
he was on with us on a couple years ago on a
Yes.
draft show.
Yeah,
when
no,
we were
Raven Kidd
at the radio station.
Raven Kidd knows his stuff. He's a good pre-draft analyzer, so
He's
got
still a tool.
yeah. Wow. Okay. Thank you to everybody else. If you too joined our discussion on the live stream, whether that be the sexiest commentator, Sports Girly, or
Thank
a
you.
close second, Tanner.
I've never seen a picture of him, so I don't know.
I feel comfortable to comment. All right. Well, so right now we've got the fourth round in our midst going on for the NFL draft. And I think if we're going to go active, I think that really the only story that if we're going to go on active storylines that just happened and finalized today, the Raiders continue their run of dominance by drafting the first rounder talent who fell all the way to the fourth round. They picked him up in the first pick of the fourth round of the NFL draft. That would be the cornerback out of Tennessee. The other one who was supposed to go in the first rounder, that would be McCoy, Jermon McCoy.
Yeah.
People were scared of that injury, even though it's been 16 months since he had that ACL.
Terrified. Yeah.
Yeah.
It happened January 25.
Yeah. So people have been absolutely, the reports must not have been good.
Well, it's not just because of the ACL. There's other stuff going on, apparently.
Oh.
So that's what they were saying. There's some other things that have shown up. So people are very afraid of this guy because they think he's going to need surgery again. Because this is a guy that should have went top 10, top 12 very easily. So they were talking about it. I heard a story. They were talking about how high he was, a couple of years ago. And he was making NIL money, obviously. And they were saying this is kind of an interesting thing because you got these kids that might try to stay in longer because of NIL money. Then all of a sudden you get hurt. And there goes your cash grab, because this guy's a first round pick. Now, what is he, a fourth round pick? It just happened?
Yeah. First, top of the fourth.
I mean, he ain't going to make squat compared to what he would have made if he didn't get hurt.
Well, it kind of depends. I mean, if you're more talented, I could argue that if you have the base of money that you got from NIL, it's actually better to be a late round pick because then you get to that second contract quicker. And that's where the real money is across the board. Like unless you're specifically a running back, where Jeremiah Love drafted at number 3 automatically becomes the highest paid running back in the NFL currently.
Second worst pick in the first round, yes.
Yeah, there we go. But automatically becomes the highest paid running back in the NFL without having taken a snap professionally.
Crazy.
Unless you're there, then it is probably better, some could argue, that you get to that second contract quicker. So, but looks like, speaking of those Raiders, they started out with offense, of course, Fernando Mendoza going pick 101. But besides that, defense, they have addressed that defense. Whether or not it be McCoy, of course, here in the fourth round, they're hoping that they can wrangle some value out of that. Of course, got a safety in the second round, Stukes out of Arizona. And then on the edge in Auburn on the third round, they got Crawford, of course. So, guys, gentlemen, I think with by this point, we've reached the depth of my knowledge of a lot of the talent in the
That
NFL
was
draft.
quick.
I'm just saying. But if we can now, I think that it's as good a time as any to kind of see now, especially with a lot of teams not having first round picks, now finally seeing what they do in the successive rounds, where we find a couple of winners and losers across the board. Unless, are there any picks that you wanted to highlight before we go to winners and losers? Because I think we can do that with winners and losers.
I think it'll fall into winners
Yeah.
and losers because
Yeah.
I've got one right off the bat.
All right, go ahead.
I mean,
which
first,
side of the
do
coin
you
you
want to
wanna go?
address the text first? I mean, so you have a couple
Sure.
texts on
All
there.
right. So we got Gilbert on Facebook is saying, "Good morning, Weekend Warriors." Yes, it is a early morning for some of us.
That's Blissful Haze.
That is Blissful Haze. Thank you very much. And then, of course, our sexiest commentator, Sports Girlie, says, "Philip, friend of the show, Lauren, wants to know what you think of the Cardinals quarterback pick. If only there was a platform where one could listen to my brilliant Pookie
Oh my goodness.
talk about sports."
So funny she should say that.
Thanks
Not
for
about-
the perfect segue.
Yeah, not about you being brilliant, because you just admitted you forget things very quickly.
That was before the show.
I know. This pick the Cardinals made, Carson Beck.
Oh, we're starting with that one.
Yeah, I have to. What a horrible pick. I thought Ty Simpson was a bad pick. This overtakes that. This is a very bad pick. I want you to think about something. Number one, this guy's 24 years old, so he's almost 30. He's like Bo Nix, right? Coming into the league. Except I think Bo Nix had a lot more talent than this guy. This guy had a lot of issues throwing the ball. He wasn't very good at Miami, in my opinion. I don't think he translates as well into a good pro. Here's my issue with the Cardinals. Cardinals, you're going to be bad this year. We already all know this. You're going to be picking in top of the draft again next year. There's a lot of really good quarterbacks coming out next year that you really have a good shot at grabbing one of these guys. It makes a lot of sense. They are going to grab one of these guys just like the Jets will. The Jets have 3 first-round picks next year. Why would you waste a pick when you need so much help everywhere on this guy? This makes no sense. You've got the stash, you've got Brissett, you've got guys that are going to go ahead and quarterback this year for you.
The stash being Gardner Minshew for those uneducated. Yeah.
So you're taken care of for this year. You're not going to be good this year. You're going to go through the season. You're going to have a top 10 pick again. Why would you waste a pick on Carson Beck? I don't understand this pick at all. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. Are you trying to appease what I feel you're doing? You're trying to appease your fan base. You're trying to give your fan base not another reason to jump all over you this year. So you went and got a quarterback and you picked that running back in the third pick, which was stupid. So, I mean, you've made some really bad picks. And I feel like you're just appeasing your fan base. That's what I think you're doing. I think these are really bad picks. I think that their draft right now for me is like an F. And it's not just me. If you go look, a lot of guys are saying terrible draft so far by the Cardinals, including Beck. What do you guys think?
I think the first round pick, bad. Jeremiah Love, not bad.
Right.
Cardinals drafting Jeremiah Love, bad.
Agreed.
I don't think we discussed this. You also thought that was a bad pick.
I think it's a terrible pick. I don't think that your offense proved last year that it cannot support the run game. I get it. They went through a lot of running backs last year. They couldn't support any of them.
No.
And I think that that's a huge problem. And I don't think that you did enough to address it. In the second round, you did pick up a guard from Texas A&M, Chase Besantis. I think that was a good pick.
It's a need.
Like you did address something that was important. You got basically equal value from what a lot of people projected him to go roughly there.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a good pick. And then you went backwards again with Carson Beck. I think Carson Beck looks. I don't think Carson Beck's not a particularly great quarterback coming into the NFL. I think one of the biggest things is he always played with a lot of talent around him,
Correct.
and he either couldn't get it done or somebody else on the team had to get it done for him.
Yep.
I don't know if I really trust Carson Beck to be the guy, and I'm fine with them swinging on a quarterback this year. Pick up Luke Altmaier in the 5th round. Pick up somebody else in the 6th round. Like, pick up somebody later on. You still have a lot of needs you need to address, and it does not help you to waste your third round pick, which was the first pick in the third round. Like there were still quite a few available at that time. You did not need to get Carson Beck. He probably would have been available for a while. The next quarterback taken, the next quarterback taken was Drew Aller, and I think Pittsburgh was going to pick him regardless. Yeah. So even if you did take a shot on Beck, you could have waited, I think, in my opinion. But instead, you let multiple key defensive positions go. You let offensive line go. To me, it was just, it's been a terrible draft for the Cardinals. And I think the worst part is that they truly are going to hype it up and think that they did such a good job, which I think is just part of the problem.
If I had to give the Cardinals a grade, which I think would be the best way that we can all have this, I so believe in Jeremiah Love that even though I think it's a bad pick, I think wrestled into it, there is good, right? Like I think that they can grow into that pick being good, but it's certainly just for the here and now, it just feels irresponsible. So, but beyond that, I also like their second round pick, but Carson Beck specifically, I think brings this down to no higher. Like if they were to nail the rest of the draft, which all they've got is a 5th round, a 6th round, and a 7th round with which to do so, I think the best it can be is a B-, and I think at best it's a C+.
You're too. That's way too high.
Jeremiah, I love Jeremiah Love.
You can't look at that though. You can't look at the player he is because we all know he's a great player. It's not a good pick.
What if he becomes Saquon Barkley himself, and it's like they happen to misuse him for the first 2 years?
You have to have an offensive line in front of you to be a Saquon Barkley.
Then just like Saquon Barkley, it doesn't matter how good he is because he's not going to win anything until he leaves and goes to the next team.
I will bet right here and right now, you watch. I'm telling you, because this is how the Cardinals are thinking right now. They've lost their fan base. Their fan base is disappearing, right? I can go buy season tickets right now. Nobody wants them. Right? I'm telling you, Carson Beck will be your game 1 starter because they
game
want,
1, no.
Yes, I'm telling you.
Game 1, no.
What else do they have? Brissett's asking for more. He's asking for more money. They're not going to give him the money. He might walk. Who cares?
Yeah.
Minshew is coming off an injury, right? So we don't know where he's going to be. I'm telling you, Beck has a great shot at being week 1 starter.
He has a shot. I don't know about a
really
great one.
Good
and he'll
start.
be taking a lot of reps in the offseason program.
He will. And I'm telling you, if he looks even halfway decent in mini camps and in the preseason, they'll start him to sell tickets.
You know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of, and Luke, you'll appreciate this, Drew Lock. And especially as a Seahawks fan, you know, you're back up. Because remember when we got, he reminds me not as his like who he'll project to be, but at least a situation where I think it's a later round pick than the first round. You got a name recognition there, and you have hope that he can be a franchise quarterback. I suppose you can fool yourself into thinking that. However, the very next year is when you're going to address your franchise quarterback.
I think he could be a franchise quarterback in the UFL all day long, and that's probably where he winds up.
He's a fantastic college quarterback because he's
fantastic.
Right. He's fantastic in that he's a veteran quarterback and all that. I have no faith whatsoever. It just feels like a ready-made. You have the best now floor quarterback, but it's so short-sighted for what you can do. It shows like you're incapable of allocating faith onto your quarterback room that you chose Carson Beck. I think
it shows you how lost Monty is and how the Cardinals are. That team is lost. That leadership is lost. I feel sorry for this new head coach coming into this situation because it's such a bad situation.
This is a case of kind of like what you just said. You screwed up your cycle again.
Yep.
And you didn't fire Monty last year like you should have.
Yep.
So now Monty is trying to get his trying to save his job.
Yep.
While LaFleur is just trying to build a program because it's his first year. And those priorities do not align. And now that you have the guy trying to save his job, he's going for the home run hitters. He's praying that Love can be a Saquon. He's praying that Carson Beck has enough experience in the pro style offense in college that it will translate to the NFL. And he's praying that will be enough. He's praying that Chase Besantis will come in and immediately be a starter and take this line to the next level. All of these are terrible things to wish for. It's fine if you want to take one swing at a home run, but you took basically 4 with their 4th round pick. They took a guy that is from a small college, they way reached for him. And he's a guy that like a lot of people aren't really sure if he can make it in the NFL level. So all they're doing is taking batting practice swings for the fences.
You know, this is why nobody wanted this job.
Yeah.
No really good head coaching candidate wanted to come here.
You're starting with the bare cupboard and
right. But you have an idiot trying to pick the players that you're going to have to deal with. And I'm sorry, Monty's an idiot. He doesn't deserve this job. He should have been fired, like you just said. And no one could really figure out why he wasn't.
So across the board, I have them as no better, and I'll go C+. You guys have convinced me. C+, because I think that's the ceiling that they can go
too
to.
high.
C+. Where do you have them?
I have them as an F.
An F.
They're an F.
I'm surprised there wasn't enough minors. Go ahead.
I'm going to go D, because if one of those picks is the home run, then I think that will salvage it from being an F.
Let's flip it over to a
fair.
success story in the draft, at least as far as my calculations are concerned.
Okay.
New York Giants have just let this draft come to them, and I think that they are just killing it, which is just astounding to me, because the New York Giants have been a heritage program in the past, and I don't know if it truly is the Harbaugh effect. I don't know if it's just the aura of just everybody else kind of doing their own thing ahead of them, but you look across this board. They start out with 2 top 10 picks. They get rid of a malcontent and Dexter Lawrence and replace him with Arvell Reese, who I keep saying, like, he's not an edge. He's going to be an outside linebacker who just goes against, goes and rushes the passer so often that he might as well be considered an edge, but he'll still be a linebacker. And then you got Mayauga going for their offensive tackle. And so to me, they nailed the first round. And to get at the 5th round pick of the 2nd round, a first-round talented cornerback, in Colton Hood out of Tennessee, and getting the 2nd-ranked cornerback out of this entire draft, it just, to me, just feels like they have allowed this draft to get to them, and they, without having to move whatsoever, I think that they have just really set themselves up to contend and possibly have at least 2 franchise cornerstone pieces here for years to come. With I think the best that you can hope for is to have talent that you are looking forward to giving them a second contract here. They will have no less than 2 here.
To me,
A+.
I'm going to go
A+, but
A+.
I'm going to go A+, because they were able to get Arvell Reese at 5. To me, that's what makes it an A+.
that's a value pick.
That is the fact that Tennessee was dumb enough to let Arvell Reese fall to them at 5.
Harris.
And I think we know one of my losers of the draft just from that. But the fact that you were able to get him at 5, you were to get a great offensive tackle at 10, you were able to get a very, very, very good DB in the 2nd round. And they got Malachi Fields in the 3rd round, who I think is going to pair very well with
possession receiver
Malik Neighbors.
Yeah, Malik Neighbors has all the flash and explosiveness. Fields is more so the just possession and Quad Bolden like receiver that they didn't have.
He's going to be the replacement for Wan'Dale Robinson, which it's hard to replace somebody as goated as Wan'Dale. But I think that they did a very, very good job. I'm also going to give them an A+. And this is not the official right value pick, but it's something I'm going to look into. I could see the Giants being the worst to first team this year.
It's very possible.
And I don't think it's a crazy thing to say.
Sports Girly on the text line saying Ralph's new nickname should be the UFL Scout.
Just call me Uffle.
That is a good one.
I'm an Uffle.
Well, speaking of Uffle takes, you said something besides A+.
So is this the team that you're saying has had the best draft so far?
The way I find it, yes.
And you're agreeing with him?
He doesn't want to commit to it, but he's like, yeah, I think so.
I feel like you are.
Yeah, I don't want to commit to Phil being right, but
your wife did say you're very non-committal. I'm just saying. We talk.
Yeah.
How'd you get her number? Don't you worry about it.
I guess I will say that. I will say that.
I say
Great
no.
conviction.
I do like the draft they've had. I even said that on draft night. I like their first round. Do I think they've had the best draft of everyone? No, I don't. I would give them probably an A-.
You know why we looked at each other?
No, I'm not going to say Seattle, so stop.
Okay.
I would give
Just
him an
wait,
A
he's not going to
minus.
say them now.
No, you know who I think, and I'm looking this year, next year, who's had the best draft so far, who's positioning themselves right now and putting pieces in place that they can just even build upon next year to be in a very good place going forward. Really good. And I'm not talking the Raiders.
Okay.
I'm talking the Jets.
Wow.
And I want you to think about the Jets and what they've done, because they've done a lot. They've brought a lot of pieces in, right? So I like Bailey on edge in their first round, their first pick. Sadiq that at pick 16, a tight end. I like him. I like Omar Cooper Jr. I think he could be a good, decent receiver in this league. I like Pons. These are good pieces. These are needs that they had. They have a ton of needs. We all know that. The biggest need they have is quarterback.
They addressed that.
Well,
They just drafted Cade Klubnik.
He's not going to be the guy. Geno Smith will be the guy this year, and that's fine. But what they're doing is they're putting some good young talent on the roster, which is what you have to do when you're that bad and you have that many holes. Cardinals, listen, the Jets are doing it right, because the Jets understand that next year they have 3 first-round picks, and they're going to get their quarterback next year. That's what they're going to do. So they're putting the young pieces in place now that they can, the best ones they can find, to start building that roster. This has been I'm not a Jet fan. This has been a great draft for the Jets. Better than you think. I think right now they are number one as far as the draft. They've had the best draft. You have to look at it just more than what are they doing right now to build this team for the next few years and take them from the hole they're in, because it's a big one.
That is the question that I've been asking myself on the part of the New York Jets. What are they doing?
They are drafting good young players. Their picks are not, these are not bad players. These are good players that down the road here, we're going to be saying a lot of these names. I'm telling you.
They're irresponsible. Look, I think that they were fine to go ahead and trade Sauce Gardner for the price that they got him for.
Yeah.
Like, that automatically paid dividends for them.
Yeah.
Great. What do you do with that pick? You go ahead and you draft Kenyon Sadiq after a year ago spending a high second rounder on a tight end, Mason Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're just doubling down for a glorified wide receiver in the form of a tight end when you could have
Sadiq is a receiver.
And you received and you could have traded down to get him. I don't think the rumblings around it was that that was a sort of a reach.
Sadiq's a good pick.
David Bailey, I like, but of course when it's hard to mess it up when you got the second pick of the entire draft.
Right.
Omar Cooper.
I like Omar Cooper. Possession receiver. This guy's good. He could translate into a really good pro.
But I would argue that that's not one of their top needs, especially when you have Garrett Wilson. Like you have Garrett Wilson, I think you need to complement it, but that could be a need addressed later on.
Pieces for a good young quarterback next year.
That they don't have.
Next year they will. That will now have a year under their belt. That's what they're doing. This is smart.
Look, I'm not saying that it's necessarily a bad draft. It's just to compare that and say it's somehow better than even the best draft in New York is heinous.
Nope.
It sniffs to high heavens. It's awful. But I would go New York Giants A+. If I'm going to grade, and I think you said the New York Giants have an A-.
A-, I give the Jets an A.
You give the Jets an A. I would give the Jets a B, because I so do not believe in the Kenyon Sadiq pick for them. Like that was just a bad value proposition. Whatever he turns into, maybe he'll be a Jimmy Graham. Maybe he'll be the next Jimmy Graham, where he doesn't block a lick, but he's just a great wide receiving option out of tight end in a tight end's body. So I hold out that potential, I guess, hope for the Jets. But I can go no higher than a B.
Okay. I like what the Jets have
done. I think I'm somewhere in the middle, so maybe a B+. No, I'm gonna go B. I'm gonna go B as well. I understand the logic of what they're trying to do. I just think they're doing it in the worst way. Okay. I think instead of doing Sadiq and Cooper, I think I would have selected probably anything else to help me on offense, or even just continue to build out on defense. I think spending the 16th overall pick on a tight end who is, as we've all I think we all agree here, he's a wide receiver.
Yeah,
he's a wide receiver with a different tag on the depth chart. I don't think that was. I think Sadiq could be a very good pick. I just don't think that he was worth it at that spot.
He's a weapon,
especially when you needed other things. And then Omar Cooper Jr., I'm not as high on him as other people are. However, I think he's fine. Like I think outside of David Bailey, you probably reached on Sadiq and you probably could have gotten something other than Cooper. Because at this point now, you basically have 3 wide receivers. And two of them are going to be presumably because you're spending first round pick. You've already spent a first round pick on Garrett Wilson, who is a number 1 receiver. You spent another first round pick on Omar Cooper. So hopefully he complements Garrett Wilson well. I think that he can, since he is primarily kind of like a slot guy. But I just think at the end of the day, you can have too much of a good thing. And when you have other needs that you need to address, it's probably better to address those other needs than to just continue to get weapons for a guy. And you don't even know who that guy is. So, like, why are we throwing all of these weapons at him? And then at the end of the day, you only end up using one of them, and one of them doesn't pan out. And one of them, you've now spent a first round draft pick on third round production.
So you're going a B.
I'm going B.
Excellent.
You know, what's funny is Omar Cooper Jr. has been compared to Des Bryant. Those are some of the comparisons coming out. So that's interesting.
He had a great 2 years. So if we're going to another team that killed it this draft, that had, dare I say, I'm going to be the convicted one. I'm going to step out on a limb here. And Luke had some hesitation. I have none. They have the second best draft, in my opinion.
I can't wait to hear this because I can already tell this is full of something.
Ralph, it's time.
Oh,
it's time. Them dogs are barking down in Cleveland. I love this draft. This is how you fortify a young franchise caliber quarterback. This is how you make him feel right at home. This is how you welcome a first year coach. You go and you get the first tackle overall in the entire draft. You go out and you get not one, you get 2 wide receivers. Hell yeah. You got a slot receiver. You got Jerry Jeudy, whatever the hell receiver he is. And then you got Denzel Boston. You got Denzel Boston, who's just a nasty wide receiver over there, who's going to be a possession wide receiver and actually give you some options and something to work with on offense. And a year 2, Shedeur Sanders, you finally address safety out of the second round with your second round pick, because Myles Garrett is a defense all unto himself. And so you don't need to address it, but you finally do in the secondary. My God, I love it. Can anybody say division winners, Cleveland Browns? I can, and I do after this draft. This is, gentlemen,
they're high.
An A draft. An A draft.
It's a draft.
This is an A. That's
it is one of 32 drafts.
That is great. But it is an A level draft. Try and convince me otherwise.
So I will say this. First of all, you're making an assumption that your guy is going to be the quarterback next year, which I think that's a pretty bold assumption because I don't think that's going to happen. But anyway, remember, Watson will be back. I think he's the
Watson
starter.
Will be back.
He's the starter.
Is the thing you never want to hear if you're either a Cleveland Brown fan or a massage
therapist, unless he has tip money. But he's probably the starter next year. Anyway, I do like the Browns draft. I think Spencer Fano is a great pick.
Yeah.
Good offensive tackle. I do like Inception and Boston at the receiver. Those are upgrades they needed because, like you said, I think what did they have? Was it Jeudy that's there?
That's Jeudy, and that's it.
Yeah,
Good luck. Good luck remembering the rest of that depth chart.
Again, this is another team, to me, like the Jets, that are addressing the needs that they have with real options, right? Which I think they're doing a really good job. Cardinals, you should be watching this stuff. This is how you rebuild bad teams. I'm sure they'll find a way to mess it up down the road.
Oh, sure.
But this is the right approach. I like this approach. I like the Jets approach. So I agree with you. Browns have had a really good draft so far. And I can't argue that.
You disagree with the end result of where I ended up.
Thinking that Shedeur is going to be, that's ridiculous.
The draft itself, you're saying you agree it's a good draft?
No, I think they've done a really good job. I would applaud what they've done in the first 2 rounds. I think they've done a very good job, a lot better than some people.
Fantastic. If you had to give it a grade.
B+.
Man, not bad. I went A, B+. It's kind of there. Luke, you said you wanted this to be the best draft in the thing, and I gave you the ability. Come join the A party.
I think it's an A- for me.
Okay,
it's part of the party.
I think it is. It is in that
that's the back end of the party.
Yeah, you're enjoying the punch.
Yeah. I think I don't. It's hard for me to support drafting 2 wide receivers here, especially because you spent your draft capital last year on Isaiah Bond. And then, so now and you have Jerry Jeudy for at least one more year. There is an out on his contract after this upcoming season, which I think they will take, barring some sort of terrible thing happening here. But I also think, I personally like Cedric Tillman. I think he had a lot of injuries.
Love me a good Peanut Tillman.
Right? I think he had a lot of injuries, which hurt him a lot last year, but he had moments and flashes where I thought, yeah, this guy isn't terrible. So, I mean, I don't know if you needed, again, going back to back on basically the same position always hurts me. I especially on a position like wide receiver where you're only going to get maybe 3 to 4 people playing a high amount of snaps in a year. So to me, that's what holds me back from going A or A plus. That, and also it's the Browns. It's just hard to believe that the Browns,
understandable.
Yeah, even when they make the right decision, it doesn't go well. When they make and then they tend to just make the bad decision.
I feel like the 3 teams that I think of in this draft that really needed to do something to help get themselves better, the Browns being one of them, the Jets being one of them, the Raiders being one of them. I feel they're all doing a lot of the right things this offseason and in this draft to actually improve, just be better than they were last year. I think they've done some. Typically, we go through these drafts and we're off season and we go, what are they thinking? Like the Cardinals, what are you thinking? What are you doing? I feel like these 3 teams have kind of gotten out of that this year so far, which that's good.
I think why that is, though, is because, one, if you're a bad team, you're usually bad because you need help everywhere. So you can contort yourself to say, oh, that's what they needed, because honestly, if they'd have picked like one of 17 positions, they would have been fine, you know? So I think that helps ease yourself into it. 2, the draft itself, what it was giving you this year was not a ton of skill positional talent outside of wide receiver. Like there's not a ton of running backs for you to reach on. There's not a ton of tight ends for you to reach on, which is partly why I downgrade the Jets, because I felt like they did just that. So I think that's a part of why you can contort yourself to say like the Raiders did what they needed to do. Yeah, but they're so awful that I don't know that it's, I mean, but they're doubling up their win total.
When's the last time you could have said that about the Raiders? The Raiders, the Browns, the Jets are all what I call swing and miss organizations. When it comes to free agency and drafts, they swing and miss all day long. That's what they do. They make really, I'm going to say it again. I'm sorry, Cardinals, but I'm going to say it again. Swing and a miss. The Cardinals, to me, this draft is a big swing and a miss. Huge swing and a miss.
Cardinals have gone thus far for name and brand recognition.
They're appeasing fan base to try to get them into the stadium next year until they see that they only win 3 games.
Carson Beck came here and played the Fiesta Bowl, and they were just like, that's who we want.
That's our quarterback.
But these 3 teams that I think typically swing and miss, I think they made contact this year.
He's our quarterback. I love it.
There's good GMs, there's bad GMs, right? Yes. Most of those teams have really bad GMs. I'm going to say this real quick. I know you didn't want to talk about them, but I'm going to do it anyway. The Seahawks, to me, I mean, John Schneider.
There it is. But there's the A++ of the draft.
Can we agree that John Schneider is an exceptional drafter and free agent guy?
He's a
built
Hall
2
of Fame,
Super Bowl teams now.
Hall of Fame executive. Okay. I cannot deprive him of that.
What does Seattle do in this draft? Jadarian Price, they needed for running back. Bud Clark, they needed to replace Kobe Bryant. Julian Neal, they needed to replace Tariq Williams. That's all he did was bring guys in that fit their mold at the roles that they had a need. And that's what they'll do, right? So that it'll just kind of flow with them next year. And other teams are just very bad at doing that. Very bad at doing that. That was my whole point.
I do think, though, that we're killing, or that we are giving more credence to Schneider just because of who he is and the track record he has.
Yeah.
When you just listed it, what have they drafted? They've drafted for need, as opposed to like the Vikings and fit, sure. But Luke over here, I don't know if he has a strong feeling on it, but he certainly did not like the Minnesota Vikings draft when they drafted for need for defensive tackle, but it felt like a reach out of where they were going. So I do think drafting for need can, and I don't like that as an overall mantra. I like having a bit of like, let the draft come to you. And even if you don't have another spot, I'll take a T. Higgins, even though I have a Jamar Chase, because eventually that will be a strength for us.
Can I say this?
Go ahead.
If you look at the last 5 years, I'm going to throw names at you real quick. Just take this. Just take it.
Denying you.
Witherspoon, And it's JSN,
Omega
Reek
Warren.
Willian, Charles Cross, Boya Maffei, Kenneth Walker, Byron Murphy, Derek
Bobo.
Hall, Zach Charbonnet, all in the last 5 years.
Bobo.
These are all hits.
Yes. But this is, I would argue that in previous drafts, he's been filling out the roster. This is the first year that I think that he's filling out for need. And that's where I always worry, is whenever you're drafting for need and perhaps reaching on a player that you otherwise wouldn't.
Okay.
Let's get to the reaction line here. Tanner, of course, saying Colin Cowherd is rolling over with these backyard hat wearing fools hyping up the Browns.
Nice. Nice.
Look. And Sports Girly also nearly rolled out of her chair. Good draft, yes, for the Browns. Division winner, get out of here.
Yeah,
Look,
she's right.
she is sexy,
And she's right.
but she doesn't have vision.
I'll be honest. I don't know. After last year, I don't know how much I trust anyone in that division.
That's what I'm saying. Their division is down. It's not the same division that it's been. The Ravens, potentially, that could go down to a week 17 and winner takes all game for the division in Cleveland. The dogs are barking.
Oh, stop. I think the Ravens have a bounce back here, but we'll get into that.
We'll get into that. All right. Do we have another bad draft amongst us? Do you want to get into a bad draft here, Luke?
I'll get into one bad draft.
Okay, go ahead.
Just because I want
Clear
to.
the runway.
I want to say it again. I already said it
I
once.
I knew he had it, so I just wanted to give him space.
And I'm going to say it again. What the F are we doing, Tennessee? What are we doing? You were given on a silver platter every option you could possibly want. You had Arvell Reese. You had Sonny Styles. You had every offensive lineman available.
Caleb Downs.
You had Caleb Downs. You had so many good options because, by the way, you need everything. Not most things. You need everything. I joked about if they had drafted a quarterback, I wouldn't have been that upset with it. But you're telling me that you had almost everything you could ever want available to you, and you decide to take a wide receiver? And on top of that, not a generational talent wide receiver. This isn't like last year when everybody was like, yes, Marvin Harrison Jr. They were wrong.
How'd that work? Yeah.
But at least I could see, like, you saw someone who you thought you were not going to be able to ever draft for years to come.
A prodigy.
Carnell Tate wasn't, like, nobody could even agree on who the number one wide receiver in this draft class was.
I wasn't even the number one wide receiver on his own team.
No, I think that we had probably what? I think all three of us had different takes on who we thought the best wide receiver in this draft was going to be.
Yeah.
So, and I know even on our text line or on our chat line, we had multiple people have different takes in that as well. So you're telling me with the 4th overall pick, when you had so much you needed to fill out, you went with Carnell Tate? That alone made me want to throw up in my mouth and give them an F.
Wow.
And then you double down on the stupidity by drafting Keldrick Falk. I don't have a problem with that particular pick in a vacuum. But again, you could have had a better defensive player at 4, and then you could have just drafted a wide receiver here. And I would have been like, okay, sweet, great draft. But then you double down again and you picked a Texas Longhorn in the 2nd round. That one actually might just be a little bit of bias. I actually do like Anthony Hill. I think he's a fine pick in the 2nd round for a team that needs everything. But you need so much. Cam Ward was not terrible last year. I think that he struggled from not having any talent around him a lot.
No one to throw to.
And I think that as they can build up more talent for him, he will get better. You didn't draft an O-lineman, which you desperately needed, in my opinion. You didn't draft a running back, which I think you are going to need because I don't really trust Pollard or Spears.
Yeah, that experiment's pretty done.
Yeah. So I just think that there was so many other picks that you needed to, or so many other positions you needed to address. And then you didn't take the good value at defense. And then you took the bad value with wide receiver. It makes no sense to me. I don't see their vision. I don't see their plan. They didn't have a 3rd or 4th round pick, which I think is equally bad because they need so many pieces, and having extra 5th and 6th rounders is not going to help you nearly as much as having 3rd and 4ths. So I just think overall it feels like they have no idea what they're doing and they're panicking at every single choice.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I can't. So if you had to put a
F,
you're at a straight up F.
Wow.
I'll give them an F plus.
How generous of you.
Yeah.
I feel like it's we talked about this with the Cardinals. It's an irresponsible pick for me. So I don't think that your offense can sustain having nice things. So because of that, I have to also go pretty low. I'm not going to go F because Carnell Tate is, at least for many, the number 1 wide receiver in this draft, and he could blossom into something. He could surprise. He could surprise. So I'm going to go with a D plus. I'm going to be generous.
The best move they made was signing Wan'Dale Robinson in the offseason.
Yeah, I'm at a D.
Yeah.
I'm a D right now. But I mean, there's still time that it can still do some things.
One more thing, at least from me, before we see if anybody else has another team that they want to talk about. But there is one team that I think legitimately, through the draft alone, has elevated themselves back into the Super Bowl contender area where they were not there last year. But this is the only team.
I can't wait to hear this.
This is the only team that I truly believe elevated themselves purely through the draft and what they did on draft night to be a Super Bowl contender. And I hate to say it. I do not want to see this team have prosperity. I do not think that they deserve prosperity.
Chiefs.
But the Dallas Cowboys had a fantastic night. First of all, getting what many consider, myself included, the best player in the draft at 11, trading up minuscule compensatory 3rd round picks in order to do so by trading up 1 to get the best defensive thing, which addresses, and as we've seen over in the Ravens and how Kyle Hamilton almost singularly is the serum for a bad defense over there. You're adding Caleb Downs, who is many perceive to be a generational talent, especially at the position. I think he can captain that defense. I think that he can lead it to be even if it's just not the sieve that it is, and it just becomes a mediocre defense. I think that is a massive step up. Dak Prescott he's respectable. I think that he's arguably, depending on how you feel about Jackson Dart, I guess, the best quarterback in that division. Get out of here with Jalen Hurts. We all know what that is. And so we're going to go with the best quarterback. You have addressed your defense. They continue to do so. They also addressed with 2 edge rushers, Malachi Lawrence and Jayshon Barham, with what they did in the 1st and the 3rd round. And then even Drew Shelton. I actually like him out of Penn State. He's one of the few 4th rounders that I know. Has a lot of good size, played left tackle over there. And I think that he can play multiple positions across the line. Dallas Cowboys are such a clown show. But the one thing that you can, weirdly enough, even though they won't spend in free agency, they actually do draft pretty well. And I think that they just nailed this draft, even if it was just by slowly acquiring talent and just hitting the defense that they sorely needed to address. I got to go A.
Oh.
A.
You going to go?
Sure. I think it was, I'll give it an A. I'll give it an A minus. I don't love Malachi Lawrence. Where they picked him, I think they could have.
It did feel like a little bit of a reach.
They could have they could have either waited, or especially because I think they traded up to get him.
Yeah.
Or was that when they
Eagles.
traded
the Eagles.
down?
They traded with the Eagles.
Yeah. I don't know if they really needed to do that to get him.
No.
I think outside of that, Caleb Downs alone is what has them in the A category for me. But everything else I think is fine. I think the key here is, unlike the Cardinals, who went for a home run with every single pick, they hit a home run in Caleb Downs, and then everything else they're just going for, small ball. We're gonna hit doubles. We're gonna bunt people over in the running position, in the scoring position, like that. I think that they're making the solid moves to help build out depth.
That's fair.
So you got an A. What do you have, Ralph?
I'm probably more of a B plus guy.
Okay.
I think it's been a good draft. I think everything he just said
It
is
doesn't sound
absolutely
like
correct.
you really believe in Caleb Downs as much as we have. You
To be
don't know
clear,
how much
I don't
of
think
safety-
he's a
I'm on the
Ed
fence.
Reed talent.
Yeah, I don't either. I think he's a little overhyped, but that's just me. I think he'll be good. But I guess where I struggle was with the comment you made that they're back in Super Bowl contention. I think that's a ridiculous statement. I'm not going to go as far to say, as some of our people do here, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard you say.
Right.
I've heard you say a lot dumber.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
but
good. But okay, so if they become the number 1 overall seed next year, and I have no faith that they'll actually win the
that
Super
will
Bowl.
not happen, but go ahead.
Sure. But if they become the number 1 seed because they just are able to steamroll their own division, and we've seen that out of this very Dak Prescott-led Cowboys team, does that not make them at least in the conversation? That's where I feel like they are.
Of course it does. But I don't see
You don't
that.
even see that. Okay.
I just there's so many broken pieces on that team from ownership down. I don't. Have they made themselves better? I believe they have.
That's fair.
It's a good draft.
All right. Speaking of a good draft, I want to go on the opposite side because I know that there is one team left that specifically wants to talk about. One team
Besides the Cardinals?
Yeah. No, you came in rip ready and roaring to
Because
go.
I'm
to
just
the
mad,
Cardinals.
but go ahead.
Yes. But I think that we should talk about the last team the other team that really made a splash on the quarterback market, drafting in the first round, the second quarterback overall in the quarterback. Ralph, talk about your Los Angeles Rams and a quarterback that the head coach had never even talked to prior to the draft. Had no idea, it seemed by all accounts and all observations, dare I say, peeved upon that press release at the end of it, just saying, yeah, he's a guy. He's a guy, but I want to be absolutely crystal clear. Matthew Stafford is our guy. There was no joy. There was no happiness in this pick. And if there was somebody who was more upset than Ralph was on draft night, I dare say it was the own head coach of the Los Angeles Rams. How do you feel about this draft overall here, Ralph?
I know a lot of people have made a lot about that. I saw all the things about it online. This is the only thing I'll say. And I hate the pick. I hate their first 2 picks, actually. Well, I don't know why you go after a tight end when you just got one. But anyway, just that make no sense. But typically what I'll say about the Rams is that's an extremely well-run organization.
Yeah.
Top to bottom, they know what they're doing. I mean, there's communication going on. This head coach did not people are like, oh, he had no clue this was going to happen. He absolutely knew this was going to happen. There was talk about it, I guess, a week before the draft that they were starting to lean toward Ty Simpson.
Yeah, there was a lot of leanings on it. I just think nobody gave it any credibility.
They didn't. And they have there's a method behind their madness, I'm sure. They're looking for the future. They're going to try to get a few more years out of Stafford. I think if they win the Super Bowl this year, this is his last year. I think he would walk away. That's kind of the plan. And I understand they want to try to find the guy that can come in and be the next Matthew Stafford. And apparently the scouting department of the Rams and they really like this guy. They feel this is the guy that could take over eventually. Having to come out and say this is Matthew Stafford's team, I thought was a ridiculous statement to have to make. I don't think any of us ever questioned that Ty Simpson was going to come in and take this team over.
They're going to come in and compete against one another. The current MVP.
He said he's going to compete against Stetson Bennett for the backup.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where the competition is.
He only had to come out. The reason he had to come out and say that is because the LA media could be so harsh sometimes. And that's all this was. Because a lot of I'm from LA. A lot of Ram fans came out and said, what the heck did we just do?
Yeah.
Maybe the dumbest pick. Why didn't we
see those watch parties? There was
Yeah.
audible gasps and no.
Because everybody wanted Makai Lemon. They all wanted.
Yeah. That felt like a natural.
You don't want this guy, right? They wanted a piece that could take them over the top to win the bowl this year because they're still hurting from what happened this last season, which to me makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Right? You get that one more guy. You do it. Instead, what they did is they looked to the future. I guess I can't get mad at them for trying to do that. I think Ty Simpson is the wrong guy. Not impressed with this guy. Now, maybe they see things we don't see. I don't know. I watched a lot of Ty Simpson last year. Not impressed at all. I thought he was a train wreck of a quarterback. But that's just me. But anyway.
Overall draft grade?
Terrible. D minus. They've had a bad draft. Tight end, that second pick makes no sense whatsoever to me. Why did you draft a tight end?
What would they have had to do to get you to say F?
Because I'm from LA, I can't give them enough, I guess.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they did go offensive tackle in the third round.
Yeah.
I mean, but again, tight end at second pick, that's a bad pick. What are you thinking?
They love to run those 3 tight end sets.
But they're pretty stacked there, and they did this last year too. What are you doing? I didn't understand that. Your first 2 picks are throwaways. These are 2 picks of a team that has the mindset of We're winning the Super Bowl this year. We don't have any needs.
That's
what that was.
They feel like their need was addressed with Trent McDuffie. If we're all being honest,
that was their pick.
That
was their first round pick.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. Luke, do you have any thoughts? I mean, I think across the board, we all, even entering draft night, did not believe in Ty Simpson. I mean, is there a
angered me.
I think Ty Simpson. I wouldn't say I don't believe in him. I don't think that he should have been a first round pick for sure. I think in the right situation he can be a quality NFL starter. But in theory, I think this could be the right situation. But again, I sat here on draft night and I was trying to rationalize it. You know, you wanted your QB of the future. You have this great coach to help coach him up. I thought that this might have even been McVay trying to say, like, let me get him now because this is who I want more than anyone possibly next year. Like, I was trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, even if I didn't agree with it. I do think it's a bad pick. I don't think first of all, if you really wanted him, you could have traded back. He was still going to be there.
From a pure value proposition, this was a dumb pick. Just trading back. Who was
the Cardinals would have traded up to get him.
Yes,
guaranteed.
But even then,
from 13, Ralph.
They would have been in the 20s.
Yeah, so they had a lot of wiggle room, and you saw trades. Trades were happening all night. You can't
interdivisional trades.
You can't convince me that they did not have around the 19th pick to play with. Certainly from the Eagles, who are trading up all night, from the Bills, who wanted to trade back. You can't convince me that they weren't able to move. This is
a team that doesn't feel they have a lot of needs.
Like the only team I could possibly fathom that at their natural pick would have tangoed with this was the Steelers, and I feel like they're still burning from that Kenny Pickett trade. Like I
don't think they would have,
unless they get like a surefire, like everybody no brainer first rounder, that they aren't gonna go with that route anytime soon.
My official grade is F.
Wow.
I think that this is terrible from a value standpoint. Ralph also didn't think interlocking was a problem, and that clearly was a big miss on his part.
Interlocking is not a problem.
And so
that's what happens after the interlock.
I think this is kind of the same
mingling.
Yeah. I think this is just bad. It's bad value. And then again, getting a tight end in the second round when you still had other needs, you could have drafted a wide receiver or another. You could have drafted McCoy. Like there were options there if you were like, I don't need to worry about this year, even though that I think is a bad mindset to have. But if you did have that mindset, then draft the guy that you can wait and just see what's going on with him. Like I just think overall, normally the Rams do very good jobs. And I think so far this entire draft has been.
Can I ask you a question? Because you're making a good point about a guy that has a medical concern.
Yeah.
If a guy is considered a first round talent and there's a medical concern, should teams overlook that concern because we know what he is? And unless it's something just crazy, should they sit there and say, you know what? I'm willing to take that risk because if this is not an issue, man, I'm getting this great talent.
I think
it depends for me on like where you're playing too. Like if you're the New York Giants, I'm taking every medical concern out the door. Like I'm serious. Like I do not want an injury prone player going to play for the New York Giants. If I'm the Saints, where there's very few on the field, like literally on the field issues of adding to our if you're the 49ers, I'd worry about medical concerns. But if I'm like the Saints, where there's not very many just weird ghost-like injuries that afflict my players. Oh, Michael Thomas, get out of here.
Chris Olave with his 5 concussions.
That's concussions. I mean, like that's not field related. That's just kind of to the player. But regardless, I feel like I can take a risk on injury prone players.
But you're saying a lesser team can. I agree. I'm opposite. I think a team that's stacked can, because they can put him aside and work through his medical concern, and they don't rely on this guy. They know that maybe a year from now, like you were just saying, or 2 years from now, they could get this fantastic player that they didn't pay a lot for.
I think that this was a very unique situation because he obviously is a first round talent, but it wasn't like he missed half a year. It wasn't like they saw him for the first 6 games last year. Nobody has seen him at all since 2024. And I think that has been the biggest concern. But I also think we kind of mentioned this a couple times. I think a lot of teams are trying to get away from those players that have such a huge injury concern. We saw it last year with Will Johnson to the Cardinals. He was the first round talent that they were able to pick up in like the third round because people were scared of his knee injury. And then what happened? He played 6 games and then missed everything else because of injury concerns. So I think that personally, I do believe stacked teams can benefit from the occasional injury concern, especially in a situation like this where he could have possibly been a top 10, top 12 talent. But as a whole, I think that it really is a case by case basis on like where you're drafting and the position it's in. And do you need somebody in that position right away, or can you afford to wait?
To close out the hour and the Rams specifically, I do want to, I completely agree with you, Luke. It was the perfect landing spot that I think everybody projected to say, I can understand this. It's just the later part of it, where we were saying, and not at the 13th pick. That just makes no sense. Even had they traded back one pick, literally one pick, and gotten a fifth rounder in addition, I would have at least been able to stomach this. And the fact that on draft night, I said the only thing that's keeping me from feeling this is that if Sean McVay saw this as like his gem, and this is the first quarterback he's ever picked, because remember, Jared Goff was he grandfathered him in, and Matthew Stafford he traded for. So I'm like, he knows how to identify talent in that he chose Matthew Stafford, and at the time that was an undervalued proposition for you. So great, fantastic. So if he sees something in Ty Simpson, no. It comes out later on that there's a bit of nepotism here and buddy cronyism.
Nepotism.
No, cronyism to where his buddy, he knows Ty Simpson from like as a kid. He's just walking around and he's like, oh, he's a good friend, and I happen to have an in with him. Look, and Sean McVay looks that upset. I have to give it an F. I'm at an F too. We're all around here at the same thing, because to me, it's if nothing else, it's where you got him and that you overreached and overstepped for him. And yes, a quarterback solves all issues. I understand that. But even for the 5th year option, what happens? What happens if Matthew Stafford has another MVP adjacent year and they don't win, and he decides to come back for another year in a position, in a place, in a city, and in an NFL where he is more protected than ever has been, which led to the longevity of Tom Brady? What happens if he comes back yet another year? You're wasting another contractual year. And I understand the logic that the Rams have, that hopefully you never have to be in this position ever again, to where you're picking this high, and maybe to pick that high you would have to give up the whole farm in order to do so. I understand that, but to reach this egregiously for a quarterback is just wrong. It's just wrong. So an F, and that's where I think we will have to pause the draft at currently. We
don't have to, but okay.
Oh, I think we can. Did we want to take a break here so that way we can come back on the other side and see if we wanted to keep continuing to talk football or football?
Oh, what I'm going to do is we're going to switch it over to the pond. We're going over the pond.
Okay.
And we're going to go for the international soccer minute. And then from there, do you want to take a break? We can go right into a break after that.
Sure.
Well,
Sounds good.
Kind of, sort of.
Sounds good.
We'll come back and we'll be back in about a minute or so.
All right.
From the Premier League to Serie A and the Bundesliga, it is time for the International Soccer Minute on the Weekend Warriors. I'm Reginald Bootsworth. We begin with Luke's teams. Bologna venturing to Roma, a setting in which lesser sides are routinely reminded of their station. One imagines a brave showing, followed by a quiet acceptance of reality. Roma 2-1. Liverpool off to Crystal Palace, that spirited enclave of noise and ambition. Plucky certainly, but ultimately outgunned. Liverpool 2-1. Hamburg away to Hoffenheim. We shall be charitable, 1-1. Now Phil's teams. Parma travelling to Pisa, where industry will be abundant and refinement less so. A draw seems the only civilised conclusion, 1-1. Bournemouth having already participated in a rather breathless 2-2, with Leeds entertaining chaos, though one hesitates to call it football in the classical sense. Frankfurt hosting Augsburg, an opportunity to assert themselves with something approaching authority. Frankfurt 2-1. And finally Ralph's teams. Napoli, who last week briefly descended into something resembling disorder, have since restored decorum in emphatic fashion. a 4-0 dismantling of Cremonese, pure domination. Manchester United, a meticulously dull yet undeniably effective 1-0 over Burnley. No flair, no fuss, job done. And Dortmund away to Freiburg. A test of character, though one suspects they'll emerge intact. Dortmund 2-1. My condolences, Rich. One does hate to be predictable. And that concludes the International Soccer Minute. I'm Reginald Bootsworth, where standards are upheld, opinions are delivered with appropriate authority, and mediocrity is noted. And before I take my leave, I must say I found the Seattle Seahawks first round selection to be most agreeable. Go Hawks, one supposes. Now back to the lads.
All right, thank you, Reginald. Of course, he said "Go Hawks." He has to say that.
Wait, what's his last name? Bootlicker?
Bootsworth. Bootsworth. Thank you, Reginald. We appreciate everything you do for us. So we've made the decision. We're going to stay with this. We still have a team or so we want to talk about. So I know, Luke, you want to talk about the Dolphins. So I'm sure Bitter Dolphin fan will love to hear what you have to say about his great Dolphins organization.
I think they're doing pretty good.
What?
I think they're doing pretty good. I think that the Chris Johnson at the end of the first round, that was bad. I think that was way too much of a reach. I think that there were better options and you could have waited. You did not need to trade up to get him. So that one I think is questionable. But outside of that, I think Cade Proctor from Bama, I personally think that that's a pretty good pick.
I like that pick.
He's a big man.
That's a big man.
And that's what you need, somebody on that offensive line to help start protecting Malik Willis and to hopefully give Achane some room to actually start running here. I love Jacob Rodriguez in the second. I think he's going to be I think he's going to be one of those linebackers that he's always going to have his name said. He's just always going to be around the ball. He's a former quarterback. He actually originally was going to be the QB for Virginia when he came out of college or came out of high school into college.
Kind of reminds me of like a Bobby Wagner, just a solid guy.
Yes. I think having played and getting recruited as a quarterback and then transitioning to linebacker, I think he just understands both sides to another level. And he's just always going to be able to have that make those high IQ plays. So I really love that pick. And then I think what's important, we kind of mentioned this before, they have 13 picks this year. 13 as of right now.
And they need every single gosh darn one of them.
Well, and I think that's the important thing here is they need them all and they're using them all. Like outside of giving up a little bit to trade back up to get Chris Johnson, for the most part, they are out here hitting everything. They have a tackle. They have a DB. They got multiple linebackers. They have multiple wide receivers. They were able to scoop up a tight end. They got an edge. Like they are hitting everything and they still have another 5 picks to go. Do I think that this draft is going to propel them into a playoff team next year? No, I don't. Do I think that this draft is the perfect setup of here's a ton of just bodies and talent? Let's see what sticks and what's good and what works. Yeah, I think that they can do that. And I think they're doing it so well, actually.
This team, and gosh darn it, if we have one more Seahawks mention in here, I'm going to just off myself. But no, so we
can
have
fix that real quick.
Yeah. So, but this team more than any other in the league just is gunning straight for the number 1 overall pick. And the best thing that you can do next year, I suppose, but the best thing you can do when in that position is just get a bunch of young guys, a group of rabid dogs, as a Giants linebacker of old would have mentioned. But do the Pete Carroll effect of the Seahawks, where you just get a bunch of guys and say, guys, open season, open competition.
That's what you should do.
Let the best guy win.
Absolutely.
Because we have no ties to anybody. And everybody on here has to earn their way, because if we can get rid of Tua, if we can stomach that, and we can just get a bunch of undrafted rookies, we have no allegiances to anybody. Doesn't matter where you were drafted. Doesn't matter what contract we have you under. We are burning the house down, and anybody who wants to save themselves, play it and build yourself a raft. And that's what's going to happen. I mean, we got Bitter Dolphin on the text line here saying, thanks, Luke. Saban called Proctor one of his best prospects at O-line, and he can play 4 positions. But
just by standing there.
yeah, no kidding. Yeah, he just lays down like a sumo wrestler. But I still wanted Downs or Bane.
That's fair.
Yeah,
That's 100%.
But
I think the Bane.
Those are the sexy picks.
Yeah, I think Bane was
Proctor
just a home
is
run.
the pick that gets you to win games.
So
That's my opinion.
if I had to go, did you give a grade?
I'm gonna go A plus. Sure.
What?
I'm
No!
going A plus surely for
Are you
volume.
drinking the tank water? What are you doing?
Sure, purely
empty.
for volume. Just absolutely like shotgun
absurd.
buckshot. I'm going A plus.
That is
That
utterly
and I
absurd.
do love Proctor that much.
That is atrocious.
Hmm.
I even in my wildest dreams did I never think that you'd be that drunk on air.
To me, it
Man, I got to make a wish.
This
about
ain't
so
water,
many
baby.
things, man.
I think that like it's an A plus to me because of the fact that they're Miami. And so the bar's low.
Thanks, Rich.
I'm sorry about that. But like the bar is so low that all
you realize
have to,
you are giving an A plus to a team that is gunning, that has the number one overall pick on a dart, and they are throwing it at the dartboard for next season. This does not improve their stock overall. Can they find some gems?
I think
Sure.
it does.
No,
It absolutely
This
does.
team, what is their ceiling? 5th overall pick?
I think that you are severe. This team was not that good last year, and they still managed to win 7 games.
Yeah, because I think that they had a wonderkid in offensive. I think now, even at their best, even if they lose games 0-3, they're still going to be losing them. I guarantee.
You're very emotional right now.
I'm
This
shocked.
is absurd. This is
No.
absurd. An A plus, that is offensive.
What are you giving them?
I'm giving them a C plus.
Wow.
A C plus. I like their first rounder. After that, it's a bunch of guys. Jacob Rodriguez, sure, he's a fine, solid guy at his pick.
This
They
guy.
didn't like happen to land anything, and again,
I disagree.
you got buckshot over there.
Oh, no,
and sure,
no,
you're
no,
going to be
no.
landing something that'll be a starter.
You're
for
missing. You're missing one guy, and you kind of poo-pooed him a little bit. And I like this guy. And this is a guy that if they didn't pick, I think Seattle takes him in the first round. Was Chris Johnson? Chris Johnson is their lockdown corner going
You
forward.
sure you're not thinking of the running back from?
I know who I'm thinking about.
Okay.
I'm thinking about the
Okay, sure.
cornerback. I'm thinking about Chris Johnson. He will be a lockdown corner for them going forward. I'm telling you right now, this guy, that's a steal. That's a steal where they got him. This is a good player. Put him on top of Proctor and you got Rodriguez. This is a very good. I agree with you.
That'd be a tall.
This is a very, very good draft. Yeah, that'd be very tall.
Yeah.
I like what the Dolphins have done. They've improved themselves
I
through
swear-
this draft.
You say A plus out of your mouth. I'm leaving the show right now.
Do
Wow, that's tempting.
Yeah.
as
Do
heck.
it.
That's
A
tempting.
Save
plus-
us.
Even you.
I'm right now going to give them an A minus, but I am going to
that
give them
is-
an A
that is
because
utterly absurd.
they've got a lot of picks. They still got a lot more. If I
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
right.
Five more.
I'm-
They have 5 more picks.
I am huge on Proctor. It is so important to have those big guys in the line that can protect your quarterback. You got to start it somewhere, right? And then I love Chris Johnson. Absolutely love Chris Johnson. You're going to see. We're going to hear about this guy years to come. Lockdown corner. Revis Island right there. I'm telling you.
It's historically, Big 5 schools providing first round talent at cornerback historically has been very good. I mean, most recently it's been Sauce Gardner, but there's a few of them. So yeah,
So I love it. I love what they've done. I think you're making some good points, and I think you're just very emotional.
I cannot believe this. Like the talent infusion that you guys are saying somehow
Look.
strictly through the draft is just absurd.
Talk to Rich. Look at his chat. Look at it. What does it say?
It says, "I'm a Miami Dolphins lover." Is what it says.
What a great addition Luke is to the show. And he's not wrong.
Yeah.
He's not wrong.
He might be
there.
fired for cause here from
I'm
showing
just-
up inebriated to the show. My
And the
goodness.
fact that we're showing chats now, I mean, it's there.
It's there.
Everyone can see it.
No, I just think that, again, to me, it's relative to what the Dolphins are. I think they came in and they did exactly what they needed to do.
I agree.
They got 13 picks in this draft and they just started spending them. I think Malik Willis is good enough to get you 3 to 4 wins right there.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
and that's all they'll get.
No,
No, on his own.
All
He's saying
they
on
have
his own.
available to
disagree.
them.
They also have Devon Achane, who is
They're-
going to get
They're going
a
to trade
better
him
shot
by the
here.
trade deadline.
No,
They're
they
not
would-
trading
They wouldn't
him.
let him. They would have let him go already.
By the
Seattle
trade deadline.
tried. Trust me.
And then I don't think, obviously, wide receiver, huge
Huge. Yeah. They have,
huge problem.
yeah.
With
Washington Jr., I think.
Malik Washington, like they have a bunch of guys who perfectly fit a 2 or a 3 or a 4. They just have no one who's even close to a number 1 option at wide receiver.
And you can hope that Caleb Douglas makes a leap. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's going to be and they did take 2 shots at wide receiver with Caleb Douglas and Chris Bell. So I think that's going to be the biggest thing but at the same time, they're going to be a run first team this year. Their entire offense is going to be designed around Malik Willis's legs and Devon Achane. And I think that's what they should be doing. And that's why getting Proctor number 1 is going to be a huge, huge help for them right now.
To go out and say somehow that this is an A+ draft for just because of one tackle. I mean,
it's not because of one tackle. It's the best tackle in my opinion in this draft. Plus the pure volume of other talent that you are adding in. Also, I think I like Jacob Rodriguez a lot more than you do.
I like Jacob Rodriguez. If you like him, I think if you like him plus, then yes, I guess you do, because I think he's just going to be solid. Like I said, Bobby Wagner, I think, is a ceiling where it's just like a solid stud guy who's
that's a pretty high ceiling, first of all.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, but it's not Brian Urlacher. It's not even. I don't know.
What? Did you just say that?
Hey, one of them is in the Hall of Fame, buddy.
Bobby Wagner will be in the Hall of Fame as soon as he retires. He's still performing at one of the top levels of this league.
Not as soon as he retires. It'll take, I think,
I
4 years.
I'm saying, how old is he? And he's
Brian
still
Urlacher was
on the top of the league in tackles.
First ballot.
I'm
actually not sure if he was first ballot or not.
Probably.
When you compare those two, my goodness. Bobby Wagner. Bobby Wagner's the elite.
I'm not
all-time elite.
You kind of said it derogatory.
I'm just saying he's a fine.
He's one of the best
guy.
ever at that.
To be
position.
honest, though, out of all the name recognizable positions, linebacker is one of those where you got the cream of the crop, and then there's not a lot in the middle. You know,
like an empty Oreo cookie.
Yeah, you got. I'm trying to think. Like you got Luke Kuechly, you got Bobby Wagner. Who's like the middle of the line linebacker right now that you can think of? Like Anzalone, but he's like an outside linebacker. Who's just like a solid guy right now in the NFL? I don't know. It's a hard name recognition.
Okay, you need to stop.
Okay, anyway.
This is getting to Make-A-Wish territory with me. You need to stop because I'm getting ready to throw down.
There is no derogatory.
That's Bobby Wagner's cleat right there.
Oh, is that why there's a little bit? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
A little bit of fairy dust on it.
One other team I just want to quickly run through here.
Run them,
and they're going to get run through.
The Carolina Panthers. I think that they've had like a pretty solid draft. They're what I'm listing under a wild card team here. Wild card being like whether or not their draft is going to be very good or very bad.
A meat and potatoes draft.
Yes, exactly. They very first 2 picks, they addressed the trenches, both offensive tackle, Freeling out of Georgia, and then defensive tackle Hunter out of Texas Tech.
With a little bit of salt over there with Brazil.
And then they added the edges with wide receiver and DB with Brazel out of Tennessee and Lee the third out of Texas A&M.
Yeah, they like those second and third.
They're also they're also going. I mean, 3 SEC and 1 Big 12. So I think that like they're just picking names from solid teams in solid conferences who had solid careers. And I think that that's what the Panthers need to do right now. They have a lot of like talent that's kind of in the middle, but they're just kind of being weighed down by like a few anchors. And I think that this is going to really help them like raise that average in a division that is very wide open. So I'm going to give them a B+.
You know what I've noticed that you guys aren't talking about? And with good reason.
Seahawks?
No, with good reason. I think with really good reason. There's a team that you haven't touched on. And that would be your Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I was as soon as
because your Denver Broncos draft so far is extremely unimpressive.
Our draft was Jalen Waddle.
Your draft this year is pretty non-talkable. It's pretty
We didn't
horrible.
have a first.
It's pretty
first
horrible.
2
so far.
rounders. We didn't.
But even what you've done, so it's pretty wasteful. I mean,
wasteful.
Jonah Coleman, really?
Jonah Coleman,
really?
I think is questionable at best. I'll say that. I don't know why Sean Payton has this obsession with having 7 running backs at all times.
He just wants to make fantasy hard for everybody else.
I was really hoping that with him not being as much involved in the offense this year, I was really hoping that this was going to be the year that we at least narrow it down to 2 running backs instead of 4. So
just saying.
But outside of that, I mean, I think
there's nothing to talk about.
Hey, look,
there is nothing to talk about. That's why we didn't talk about it.
Very
we haven't
bad
even
draft.
We haven't even attached a draft grade to the Seahawks because the reason why is whenever you're talking about these upper tier teams, very rarely do you attribute something because their team's almost sort of just made, and so they're adding across the edges. The Broncos team, as seen by how their biggest offseason moves have just been mostly retaining. Like our big offseason move is Jalen Waddle.
Yes.
Like singularly, like that is the move that they're saying with the addition of Bo Nix coming back from his ankle and his foot, I should say. And of course, Jalen. You let that man rest in peace. And Jalen Waddle, like they're saying that is what is going to make this team get over the hump that we saw.
I don't see it.
Yeah, I know you don't, but
had we couldn't even beat a bad Patriot team.
Had we seen you in the Super Bowl, we would have given you a gosh darn run.
You just would have been another team that would have lost in the Super Bowl. That would have been fine.
I don't know if we would have won.
No, you wouldn't have.
Closer than
you wouldn't.
It would definitely have been better.
That
than the
I guarantee you. If that would have been a much closer game, a much better game.
Bo Nix didn't get hurt when he did. He got hurt in the Super Bowl. Would have been one or the other. Well, either way, the bone was getting cracked. So it didn't matter.
Now that's a license plate. Golly. All right. So, and then there's a whole bunch of just mez for me, where like if you want to go down the list of like B plus to B, I got Detroit, Green Bay, Baltimore, Chicago Bears. I kind of liked it because they needed safety help. So the fact that they were able to get the number 1 safety where they were, that felt well, I guess second safety after Caleb, because Caleb Downs is just his own thing. But yeah, that's you want to know a sneaky bad draft? Sneaky bad draft is the Chargers. Needed offensive line help. I know they're getting their 2 tackles back, but I'd rather have them ease in rather than needing them from day one, both to be there. And they elect to go, and also they needed wide receiver, and they just kind of go against on the edge. They go to the inside of the line over in center. Not the best draft in my opinion, but
okay. It's fine. I really think that their tackles coming back will be enough. I think their draft was fine. I think the Saints have kind of like that interesting, like, hey, this could be really good, or this could be like not as good. Jordan Tyson with Chris Olave, I think, could be dangerous. I also think they could both be out by week 3. It is hard to predict with those ones. So like I think that they have like a pretty average draft. I think Pittsburgh.
That is the highest upside, lowest downside. That is the most polarizing draft of all, because even from their first pick, that guy is a prospect. I love him because he came out of Arizona State and he looks the part, but he needs some refinement. And plus the fact that you picked up Drew Aller and he very well, depending on like, there is still a non-zero chance that Aaron Rodgers does decide to retire. I don't think so, but if he does decide to retire, you're probably going into the season with Drew Aller as your number 1 starting quarterback. And do I like that? No.
You shouldn't like that.
No, I guess what I like it better than Carson Beck. Golly. All right. I think I'm pretty good.
I think we put a pin in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, all right. Sounds good. All right, let's move over to another fun one. And the king, he reigns. You know what? I think the best tweet of all time is, had LeBron James not sire to son, the Lakers would not have won game 3. And I love that. I love that because those 5 points were critical and an absolute gem and an absolute masterpiece and an absolute master stroke. He was stroking it from 3. LeBron James has been the story of the first round, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
He has shown why he is the holder of the best career in the NBA, unquestionably, and why the Lakers, to the surprise of everybody, is going to be moving on. Because
surprise of everybody.
I don't know. I don't know.
You didn't think they were going to beat Houston?
Do you know how big of a favorite they were to not make it prior to game 1?
No.
They were -8. The Rockets were minus 800 to win that series. They were favored.
I didn't see that.
I did not see that.
What?
I'm telling you 100% that they were favored prior to game 1. And
I would have took that bet all day long.
Yes, the Rockets were heavily favored. heavily favored to win that series.
I don't think that's right.
No, that is 100% right. I have that locked stone to win the series. Maybe not game one once Kevin Durant got out. I think that they were slight underdogs, but no, given that, remember where we were.
He's right.
They were
really?
minus.
Bet at MGM was minus. I'm not seeing minus 800, but I'm seeing everything from minus 600 to minus 750. So
yes,
I get it, right? Your two best players are out.
Yes,
but everybody was saying
two of the three. Austin Reeves is the questionable one. He's
he's not the questionable one. Your two top scorers are out. How's that?
Yeah, I like that.
We'll go with that.
I like that.
No, they are. Those are the two top scorers.
Feels more comfortable.
LeBron is 47 years old or whatever he is. So Austin Reeves and Luka are the main guys. LeBron's that little filler. And he's a great filler. I'm not saying he's not, but I'm just saying he's not the team anymore. But I still felt that Houston was not going to beat the Lakers. I thought the Lakers were just too deep for them, regardless of those two guys being gone.
You had the best draw if you were the Lakers.
Absolutely, their best draw.
And 100%. it is just an absolute cherry on the mantle of LeBron James's career that he is able to do this, because he's
so good.
Out of all the non-championship years, because as impressive as this is, it's not going to end in a championship. But out of all the non-championship years, this series very, very, very well might be his most impressive accomplishment out of all the non-championship series.
Kind of agree with that,
because I'm telling you, heading into it, I know that we're a bit Laker friendly here, and I given that 2 out of the 3 are certainly. And then I think you're a LeBron James sympathizer, yes? Like I'm a
LeBron. I'm a neutral.
Yeah.
For LeBron.
So not having the normal people that represent that hate LeBron James on this show, I think
I'm not a fan of LeBron James personally.
But you're
a
Lakers fan, so I think it washes it out.
Yeah.
But having that neutrality on it, I don't think that you realize how favored, how just utterly devoid of options everybody thought that the Lakers were, that they were going to be heading into this hopeless, aimless, and that the key word, we talked about interlocked a couple weeks ago, the key word for this series was elongate, was just make sure that this series gets long enough to where Luka has potential to show up in the end and save it in a game 7, where Austin Reeves can potentially show up in a game 4 and just do something to help make the series go longer so that we can possibly win it. This is utterly impressive. The fact that LeBron James at his age is able to orchestrate and be just a point guard and be whatever you need throughout this season. He has gone through the role of being the absolute best defensive maven as a third man. He's gone now as an orchestrator of offense. In game 1, he was the number 1 scoring option. He is just so flexible in his role and in his ability, even to this great age that he's at. It's superb.
I don't think if anyone can argue that. I agree.
Yeah,
the guy's
series
amazing.
over, right? Anybody want?
Oh yeah, they'll probably sweep them.
Yeah, sweep now. I think because those Rockets, Ime Udoka's coming out after the thing and saying we either need to grow up or shut up.
Yeah, they're done.
Yeah, they are broken. Yeah. They are utterly broken. Is it not possible that Kevin Durant gets traded again this offseason, which is utterly unthinkable going into the season?
I don't think he'll get traded in the offseason.
Oh, that's interesting.
I think he might get traded next year.
By the
I don't think they're gonna. I don't think you give up what you give up and then only give Kevin Durant 1 year.
That team looks broken, Luke. Does a Fred VanVleet coming back just utterly just fix that situation? I don't know.
I think it drastically improves it.
I don't know about drastically, man, because ever since the allegations against Durant came out that he was on that text chain that just leaked out and he was just bad mouthing his teammates to randoms on the internet, that he's going around and doing that broke this team's chemistry. There have been bad juju on this Houston Rockets team, save for a few last second wins at the end of the season. They have just been utterly devoid of hope and optimism.
Here's the thing though. Who trades for him?
Seattle.
They don't start until
John
2028.
Schneider, that
unfortunately,
bastard, he's got it.
That's where he's going to wind up eventually. But
he could go to the Timberwolves.
No, he'll stay 1 more year then go to Seattle.
There are options.
He's got to stay 2 more years, I think, for that.
I thought it was 1. No, was it 2?
Maybe it's 2. But either way, I don't think that there are. I don't think anyone is going to want him. I think he's poisoned.
I agree.
Let me rephrase this.
Yes, please.
The people that are good enough to want him are not going to want him. Like, I think that the Timberwolves, the Nuggets, the Knicks,
the Utah Jazz aren't going to want him, and trade him,
like,
even though they have the ability.
You're either tanking and you don't want somebody that good because somebody that good will stop you from fully tanking, or on the flip side, you are so good that you don't want to ruin. Because again, this is something everyone has known for years. Kevin Durant cannot stay off Twitter. Everyone has known for years Kevin Durant
It's not a well-kept hidden
has burner accounts that he uses on Twitter. Like this is not like an unknown. This was not an unknown secret. It's just this is the first time it's been released that instead of defending himself, he is attacking his teammates. But now that
and current teammates, even at that.
Well, and now that that's out, why do we think that like why would a team if he gets traded away because of bad juju? Why would a team want to bring in that bad juju?
Because this is the first time that I've ever really even seen that against current teammates. Like, look, the Houston Rockets have not proven to be that well responsible themselves. I mean, you look how going into the season, we knew that they didn't have a point guard. Did they try to get Amon Thompson to be their next point guard? No, their solution was have Kevin Durant come up and bring up the ball. When has Kevin Durant ever done that? Like, he's fantastic scorer, Hall of Fame scorer, maybe even the best number one pick that you want in a one-on-one competition. Like, there's great things to say about Kevin Durant. He's probably what you want to now that Wemby exists, maybe second, but he's the second best prototype of who you want to get as a scorer. But he's never been a bring the ball up and get you a bucket and facilitate an offense type of guy. He's just the perfect fit into any team that you want. And so they never addressed it. They never even got like even a malcontent Chris Paul. I know that it didn't work out there in the end with him and specifically with Houston, but I don't have to imagine he would have wanted a chance to at least be on a playoff team. So you could have gotten Chris Paul. You could have traded for somebody before the deadline. Again, this was an issue going into the season that they never addressed. Ime Udoka is being outcoached circles around in this series. Like, all they did was double team Kevin Durant, and that's his inability to get. Yeah, that's all you had to do, and that's never been a thing for Kevin Durant. So they are getting sequestered down and scoring offensive production by a not good defensive Lakers team, by certainly without any of their top two pieces.
Horrible defensive team,
but not horrible, but certainly not like this. This is not. I don't even know the Raptors. This is not a Magic team.
I'm sorry. That was me.
Just so you know, you can also watch LeBron James and get a McDouble. Like, that's how good this team is, because they're getting you entertainment nonstop. Look, this Rockets team, I just don't think we can trust that they are the beacon of championship contenders that they were when they even traded for Kevin Durant. I think it's two stories. It's one on how Houston goes forward from this and how Kevin Durant goes forward from this. Do I think that this tarnishes his legacy? No, but I certainly just think that it's not the elevator that he would have hoped for. Any other series that we want to go to?
Yeah,
I know that
what about Luke's upset series?
He wanted a feisty
Orlando over Detroit. They're up at halftime by like 13, and they're already at 1-1, so they can go up 2-1 in this series.
Yeah,
the number 8 seed.
You
called this.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought was going to happen. Is Detroit's just not quite ready to take that next step. And I think Orlando was a team that talent-wise, I think is better than the 8th seed. I think that they have issues with motivation. To be clear, I think they're probably somewhere in the range of like a 5-6 seed is what talent-wise they should be.
For those keeping track at home, is better than an 8 seed.
It is by about 2 to 3.
Wow.
I'm proud of you for being able to do basic math. I actually wasn't sure.
I'm kind of shocked
if you were capable of it.
I'm shocked.
Hey guys, I can also give an A+ to teams that don't deserve it.
Yeah, you've done that.
He's done that a lot. But just overall, like I think that this was has been a fairly good series. Not the best one by any means, but whenever you see an 8 kind of make a run at overthrowing a 1 seed in the first round, it's always a little entertaining to me.
Outside of the top like 3 seeds, which I guess would then just be what the Knicks and the Celtics, I think that the Detroit Pistons are just built so well to go up against in a series and be the better of the two teams, at least on the East, against the majority of these teams. However, the NBA is very weird in that, especially in playoff basketball, it's usually just styles makes fights. Like you'll see right now, I think that the Denver Nuggets would have been much better off drawing a lot of different teams.
I told you this.
The Timberwolves.
He wasn't here when you said that.
Oh, that's right. You weren't here.
Yeah, I wasn't here.
Oh,
but
okay.
they are constructed specifically to beat
I'm
this
looking
team.
at you, Ben.
Yeah, there you go. The Magic, I think, specifically going to this series, is the one team that the Detroit Pistons just unfortunately got stuck with because of how the play-in worked and everything. That I think that they just did not want to see, because they are a similar team to them. Therefore, knowing how to play against them, and that just mucks it all up. I think eventually the Detroit Pistons will win this and pull it out, but it will not be without casualties. It will not be without an elongated series that I suppose a younger team is able to withstand a little bit more. But who knows? I mean, you get more volume, you get more games in a series, that leads you more prone to injuries, and you certainly don't want or wish that upon anybody. But good on you, Luke, for seeing that there was a even though there's a talent discrepancy, that there's a styles makes fight element to this series.
I did say the Timberwolves would win.
He did say that.
So you have them winning the series?
I did.
Yeah. He did say that.
I said they're built to beat the Nuggets and they're going to win this series.
I think that there is an element of where the Nuggets need to win this series. And if nothing else, it's that it will be condemnation upon the Nuggets that they have this generational player in the form of an offense unto himself and Nikola Jokic. And the 3 years since they won the chip, they are going out in unflattering fashion. Like they went 7 games last year to the eventual champions in the baby Oklahoma City Thunders. And then the year before, they lost to this very Minnesota team. And this year, it's in a first round matchup, a 6-seeded Timberwolves that were whimpering to the finish line. And still Anthony Edwards has not looked himself the entirety of the time. The last game that the Timberwolves won, Anthony Edwards had not scored in the last 6 minutes of the game. This is a team that is just all around constructed to beat this team. And look, this is the best iteration of the Nuggets I've seen yet, and still they are having significant trouble with this Timberwolves team. And I think it would be damning of the Nuggets if they do not make it out of this series, even though I think that the Timberwolves, you got to applaud them for what they're doing. I love this team. Like they're everything that the Thunder are not, and you just have to appreciate and love it. And it's almost unfortunate that they're meeting this early on, because these two teams would be making noise in other series. But as it is, they're facing each other and just coming to blows each and every game.
This series has 7 games written all over it.
All over it.
The Lakers and the Thunder are going to be, they're probably both going to sweep. And they're just going to sit there and rest, which is great for the Lakers. They need to. The
Lakers need
Suns in 7.
Yeah, Suns are going to get swept.
That would be bold. I think you can certainly get value on that.
Right. The Trailblazers have been giving the Spurs fits. I think they lost their chance yesterday. They really should have won that game. That was a big hit for them.
I think they got real lucky with Wemby getting concussed so early in game 2. Otherwise, I think that series would basically be over.
Well, you talk about styles making fights, specifically in that one. The Trailblazers, they offer such a different like small ball thing that there was a question on whether or not entering the series, whether or not that would be something that the Spurs had not seen and whether they could adjust to it. Oh no, Wemby was all over it. It was not non-factor. But you've seen now that this is the first time really ever during the entirety of the season that the Spurs have had to deal without either Cornette or Wemby on the floor. And so when your depth is being pushed and now you at times you're being forced to go small ball, you're meeting the Portland Trailblazers where they are. That's where they got their second game win. Good on them for being able to withstand the blows on the part of the San Antonio Spurs.
Right.
I think that's the best thing that you could have hoped for. Now that you're up 2-1, I think you can wait if you decide to, and you want to make sure that Wemby comes back and not rush him back from a concussion and have him come back in game 5, result be damned. And then just kind of say, you know what, it's going to be a little bit longer series than we hoped for, but we'd rather make sure that our hopes and dreams of contention rest in Wemby. Let's make sure that he's coming back 100%, because that fall, that was
bad.
That was
bad.
a weird fall. And at first, like if you're watching it in the flow of the game, you're like, oh, what's he doing? Is he just like trying to sell a foul? Because that's not Wemby. That's not usually
what hit.
No. And what's so odd is that he is such a he is truly an alien, because there are things that he can do that are just simply never been plausible to other players. I think that goes both ways in that I don't
give him
know.
way too much credit, but
No. I think, trust me, never trust a Frenchman in the playoffs. This is another example of it. But no, I think because of how he is built physically, that like when he's falling from like 2 stories up. Like I don't know. Like if Anthony Edwards falls, like he's just automatically in there. Have you ever seen a player get concussed on the floor on the hardwood like that?
So you're saying midgets can't get concussed?
Wow.
Is that what I just heard you say?
I'm just saying anatomically,
Yeah,
it's harder.
anatomically.
It's harder for them to do so than a tall guy.
Midgets don't get
falling
concussions.
I'm not from themselves from being
I'm just,
falling
that's
onto
what
the
he's
floor.
saying.
I'm
I
not
watch a lot of TV that has a lot of small people on it, and you're saying they don't get concussed.
I'm
I
not
get
a
it.
doctor, and I'm also
It's fun to watch them run, but I guess when they fall, they don't get concussed.
I
Okay, good.
My goodness gracious.
So I'm going to move on
No,
to.
can you move to Rich? Read it.
Sure.
Sure. Durant may get sent to Siberia, otherwise called the Chicago Bulls.
Possibly. That'd
be
be
fun.
something stupid that Chicago would do.
They do a lot of stupid things.
Celtics Sixers, just to touch on them real fast. Such a
Who
because
wants to
it's
touch that?
because it's a weird series to me.
Yeah.
What's weird about it?
Game 3 was close.
Yeah, it was.
Game 1 was a blowout. Game 2 was
A win on the part of the 76ers.
and it was not a blowout, but it wasn't. It was double digits. I just think it's such a weird series of back and forth because I think we all kind of agreed the Celtics had kind of figured it out.
Yeah.
And Jason Tatum has, for the most part, looked like himself.
Yeah.
He looked good
Even if
yesterday.
it's just on
Made
the
a big shot at the
defensive
end there.
Yeah.
and Tyrese Maxey is just balling.
Yeah.
He's balling out. And I don't know. This makes me concerned with the Celtics' chances. This is a team that Paul George is not playing particularly great. He's not playing bad, but he's not playing great. There's no Embiid, shocker there. And
Actually, if they get this to, I mean, I don't think so, but if they get this to like a game 7, there is possibility that it comes back.
I think that it's very dangerous for the Celtics. Like the Sixers without Embiid have a lot of talent. With Embiid, they have an astronomical amount of talent. So like for you to like be struggling isn't necessarily unheard of, but I mean, let's see here. 76ers, Paul George, 41 minutes. Kelly Oubre Jr., 40 minutes. Tyrese Maxey, 42 minutes. VJ Edgecombe, 41 minutes. Like it's hard for them to keep that up.
But all they need to do is win one series. This first series, that's all they need.
Because there's no one else to beat.
Yeah.
Like literally.
Yeah.
No one.
But that's what concerns me is like you're playing against a bunch of people who are tired.
Sure. Not to minimize this, but I do think it's just how the Boston Celtics play. Like they are truly by all definition, a 3 make it and miss it team. To where like in game 2, they were down to 26% shots from 3%. And I think somebody did a deep dive and they're like winless in whenever they go 26% and below from the 3-point line because they unabashedly will continue to shoot even to their own demise, even if they aren't feeling it that night. And they're like, results be damned. We will Daryl Morey this unto death. And they won a championship that way. Certainly, you got to give it to them. But we saw that last year against the Knicks. They faltered, even though they had the talent edge. And this year, I just find that they are able to work at the fundamental stuff more. And because the 76ers are fundamentally flawed without Joel Embiid because of just how much he takes, even if nothing else, in the cap of that team and how it's built, that I do not think that it's just whenever the Celtics lose, I merely see it as they didn't make their 3-pointers. They weren't falling tonight. And I don't necessarily even see that on the defensive part of the 76ers. It just feels like, it wasn't going in.
I feel like this first round has solidified the fact that whoever comes out of the East, it doesn't matter because the West is going to win this. Is going to win the championship. In my opinion, I think it's just a way stronger conference.
Yeah.
And I'll give Ben a shout out because Ben had said he said the Hawks had
I'm
a chance
shocked.
to upset the Knicks.
I am CJ McCollum. Woo! He's been a godsend for those Hawks. Those Hawks since the trade deadline have a historically great winning percentage. I think by only number 2 ever since that because they have just been smoking hot. And in these last few minutes, you talk about like going up against the once removed clutch player of the year in Jalen Brunson. The clutch team has been Atlanta Hawks. My goodness gracious, they are hot from like the fourth quarter on.
I was on Ben's side here. The Knicks are gonna nick, and that's what they're doing. They're just doing it earlier for whatever reason. They just cannot beat the Hawks.
They're nickering and they're bockering.
They just can't do it. They see a Hawks. They're seeing the ghost of Trae Young. Like they just can't get over the hump. CJ McCollum averaging 27 a game is not. It's not
wasn't on my bingo board.
No, it wasn't on mine either. But I mean, he's playing well. I personally, like Ralph said, and like we all kind of have said, like the East is just not a threat because none of them can really be taken that seriously, except for maybe the Celtics. But as we've already said, the Celtics they have one win condition, and if they don't hit that win condition, it's over.
Yeah, there's 3 teams in the West that will beat any team in the East.
Yeah,
so we all know who those are.
Yeah. So you're still sticking. You feel confident. You feel staunch in believing that the Timberwolves are going to win that series.
I really do. I think they're going to win that. I think they win that series. I think it's great because don't they reseed after the first round?
No.
They don't reseed.
No, they are setting their bracket.
No, they need to reseed.
I know.
Can we get them to reseed?
You want.
Yeah, I want the Spurs really bad.
I know you do, but you're not going to get them. But speaking of the one team that is just kind of ho hum, or at least the series that is something of a foregone conclusion, and the refs are certainly helping in that. The Thunder. The Thunder go up 2-0 against the lowly Suns, and they've managed to do something that very few teams and people have been able to do.
Go ahead.
They got 2 things. 1, they got Devin Booker to actually speak.
Yeah.
And 2, they got Dillon Brooks fired up. Dillon Brooks, it was darn near as close as you can be to being complimentary to LeBron James. He was saying, you know, I got to shout it out to LeBron James. He was able to bait a foul out of them, but I mean, my God, and he's like, wait a minute, but you know, screw that guy. But this Suns team is frustrated by how the refs are calling the Thunder.
Is that what they're frustrated by?
I mean, everyone's frustrated by it. It's not just the Suns. Everybody's frustrated by this. I think it's truly an embarrassment to the league. The Thunder, this was not last night. Game 2 was like, it was showing the weakness of the Thunder. The Thunder, SGA did not play well in game 1. They still blew out the Suns. The Suns are not going to win. To be clear, I want to say this up front. Okay. The Suns aren't winning.
All right, so you got a sneaky suspicion the Suns will win. Okay.
Everything I'm about to say is more directed at I'm worried about the Thunder going forward than about the Sun. I don't think the Suns are going to get this magical upset. I think they could win a game at home and then lose in OKC in game 5. But I think it's just been embarrassing. SGA played terrible in game 1. They still were able to get the blowout. Game 2.
But hey, he got all those free throws.
Yeah. Game 2, they legitimately were at risk of losing in OKC. The final score shows a 13-point loss. At one point, the Suns had cut it down to 6. And the only reason why they weren't able to continue was because of James Williams. Do you know who James Williams is? Do you know what team he plays for? Apparently, he plays for the Thunder. He wears what appears to be an officiating uniform. I'm not sure how that's legal, but he is very clearly a Thunder player.
Wow.
And the fact that we talked about this, very rarely do you see players or even coaches for that matter call out individual officials. The most prominent example is the Chris Paul, Scott Foster beef that the NBA just embarrassingly never actually took care of. But very, very rarely do you ever actually see players and owners call out specific individual officials. It's normally, I don't know what the referees were doing. I don't know what the officiating was. It's very generic and they try to blame the whole crew. For Devin Booker to go out there and specifically say, I'll get my checkbook out and I'll pay this fine. James Williams, y'all are trash. It felt good to see because Jordan Knott's done a lot of good things for this team this year. However, arguing with the refs and defending his players has not been one of them. I think he does need to show a little bit more fire and passion when defending them. And this is the perfect example of when you literally had OKC saying, hey, can you give that player a tech? And they immediately did it. It is truly an embarrassment of the league. And you're right, Tanner. I cannot afford a fine for that. I cannot afford that. But it's truly an embarrassment for the league. Matt Ishbia came out after Devin Booker and supported Devin Booker. Like, he's
Booker,
right. This was bad. And then
Booker did get fined, and then the NBA did rescind his tag.
yes, because it was embarrassing that it was ever assigned out in the first place. Like, and this is not something that me as a Suns fan am saying. This is something that literally the entire NBA landscape was saying after that game.
The Thunder are frustrating. The Thunder are frustrating because not only are they generating a whistle, but they are then being given the ability by the refs to swallow the whistle on the other side of the ball. So when you have a bubble wrap player such as SGA on one end, who's getting all the foul calls and honestly saving him out of a lot of bad offensive nights. But on the other side, you got Lou Dort just diving at knees and like taking people out and just playing football on the basketball court. Honestly, you got to pick a tempo, guys. As a refereeing crew, you can't give them both. Like it's kind of like whenever you see on a football field where you ask the head coaches and they're like, we don't really particularly care how a refs the game, but just be consistent in it because we want to know we will do business as business is being done that day. And when the referees are just not only giving them calls, but then being influenced by requests for calls and say, hey, do me a favor. Can you, thank you. That it's an affront to the league. It's an affront to the competition as a whole. And it's something that the NBA does need to address. Like there's certainly just tanking is a problem, but also on that list are these generating foul calls, and just when they're just acting. They're acting. They're out there earning Oscars for these performances by just saying, "Hey, you know what? It's the difference between, like I said earlier, with Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards is looking to freaking finish that drive to the layup. Like he's getting a foul, but he's not looking for the and one. Shea, he's looking for is like, oh, the defender overcommitted to defending. I'm just going to kind of go, he's pulling out his Prince call. Just
It was the back-to-back of the most unnatural shooting motion by Chet Holmgren, which 100% should have been an offensive foul and been a turnover for the Suns. And then immediately afterwards, the regular Devin Booker just taking a shot and then immediately getting called for an offensive foul. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, Shea is over here just going, wait, oh, here comes Devin Booker. I got you one. Oh, Dylan Brooks, I got one for you too. It's ridiculous.
It's truly embarrassing.
That's your MVP, folks.
Yeah. Like he, by definition, a free throw merchant.
Most vulnerable player. All right.
Are we done with this? Oh my gosh. I mean, even Blissful Hayes, Booker's the worst defender in the NBA.
Which is just wrong. I don't know if
Blissful Hayes is anything, he's consistent. He always talks bad about Devin Booker.
That's great. Devin Booker, he's not an elite defender by any means, but he absolutely is not the worst defender in the NBA.
But Blissful Hayes is consistent, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. In a league where Damian Lillard exists, I dare say you are wrong. And Trae Young holds that baton, my good man.
We were going to get into the NHL, but can we just talk about one series, I guess, real quick?
Sure.
Can we talk about the Mammoth? Wow. Jeez. Let's not talk about the Mammoth. If you guys are going to do this stuff. You know what? The Mammoth are up 2-1 on the Golden Knights. They won big again last night. I mean, this is, again, you're a Phoenix Coyote guy.
I don't know if I go that far.
Your ex-Coyotes are up 2-1 in round one of the NHL. The NHL playoffs have been insane. This hasn't been an insane series. I mean, what do you think about this?
Ducks up 2-1 is what I think.
That's the other one I'm going to go to, but I wanted to start there because you're a Phoenix Coyote guy.
I don't know if I've ever once considered myself a Coyote guy.
I'm pretty sure I saw a Mammoth song when you bent over.
Oh yeah. Why were you looking, Phil? I mean, I think
looking for your tusk.
We say this
I almost snorted
every time, all the time. It is. Hockey is the most like flip a coin to figure out who wins a series.
Oh, forget. Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Come on.
We're literally seeing it multiple times right now. Utah up 2-1 against the Golden Knights. The Canadians up 2-1 against the Lightning.
We expected that. Hurricanes up 3-0. Phillies up 3-0.
I know it's so weird.
Avalanche up 3-0. We knew those were all going to happen.
I don't think we did.
Oh, we absolutely did.
Senators, I thought that we're going to give a little bit more of a fight. And those games have been close, but yeah.
But the Oilers Duck series, this has been an interesting series. First of all, they're really sporting those Duck uniforms. Those ones that you love.
They love those vintage
They've been sporting those
because
every
they're
night.
elite.
Duck around and find out.
But I've been kind of shocked by what the Ducks have been doing.
I haven't.
They've
Best team in the league.
outplayed best team. Look, Blissful Hayes. They're not the best team in the league.
Best team in the league.
No. Oh my gosh.
They reinvented hockey. That's what they're doing.
I just
They take you down to the deep end of the pond and they corkscrew you to death.
they make you want to pull for them though. I mean,
They didn't have to try hard. I was pulling for them anyways. Pulling for them to them.
They don't offer a bill of service. They will just bill you to death.
oh, I just can't get into this.
You're
Okay.
on fire with
Let me
those.
tell you.
I mean, everything else that's happening, I kind of figured. We said Buffalo. We talked about Montreal. We talked about Carolina. We talked about Philly, Colorado. It was either going to be a sweep or a 7-game series.
Looking like a sweep.
It's looking like a sweep. They've been great games, though. Really good games, but Colorado's the better team.
Ralph, we do have a question from Tanner, specifically to you. Are the Penguins getting swept today by the Philly Flyers?
I think they are. I think they're done. I think they're going to get swept. I think that Ottawa gets swept. I don't think all those 3-0s are sweeps. Every one of them.
And I think I mean,
As a King fan, that hurts.
It's
but
usually it's pretty important across sports to just end series when they're end.
when they're done, they're done.
When they're done, they're done. Make sure that it ends. But I mean, especially in hockey, where it is so physical and such a long trek to the end of the road on
It
the.
is. It's been fun to watch. Though.
It's tremendous.
I
It's
love
tremendous fun. But I'm saying, like, if you have a sweep available to you, just do it. Just sell yourself out. Make sure to get it and just push them down.
do it.
Yes.
Only other thing I'd say is, I'm sad for my Kings, but I guess there truly were no Kings this year.
I'm sad that we're not getting the bird on bird finals that I dreamed of.
The Avalon.
You did pull for the bird on bird.
I was really hoping for
You
Penguins.
did pull
and
for the
Ducks.
bird on bird. But I mean, I think the Ducks will be second round, and they have a really good shot at winning the second round.
I know. I had them
Ducks
going
and
to the
Mammoth,
finals.
Ducks and Mammoth in the second round. Are you kidding me?
Lots of animals.
Are you kidding me with this? Ducks and oh my gosh.
We're gonna have
What if the Ducks beat the Avs in the conference champ?
Nibble on this piece of bread
This
over
stuff
here, man.
happens in hockey, though. You get these teams that get hot, and next thing you know, they're in the championship.
we have a lot of animals going on here.
Okay.
We've got the Ducks, the Mammoth, the Canadians.
Is a mammoth an animal? I guess it's an animal.
That's the one that you paused on,
Yeah, I paused on the
not the
mammoths.
Canadians.
Well, there's a lot of animals in Canada.
That wasn't the joke I was making.
What were you making?
That Canadians are animals.
Well, they are.
It's-
I'm agreeing with you. They're
I don't
animals.
think that one made him quack up.
That,
That was good. That was good.
Jeez. All right. I mean, I just wanted to touch that. I mean, we have a few minutes left.
Yeah. Speaking of touching, let's touch our Dodgers.
Can we touch? No, I don't want to touch the Dodgers. You know what I want to touch?
Who do you want to touch?
The most surprising team in the league.
The Pirates?
The Oakland Athletics
Yeah.
are in first place, guys. The Oakland Athletics.
The Sacramento.
No, I'm calling them Oakland.
The
The
Sacramento
Oakland
Athletics.
Athletics.
Honestly, that is
The
disrespectful
okay,
to
fine.
Sacramento.
The Oaklamento Athletics.
I actually just realized this on ESPN. It actually just says athletics.
Yeah, they don't even
Yeah,
say
Every
Sacramento.
other team has
Yeah,
the geographic location except for them.
Because I think when it was rumored that they were leaving, somebody got the copyright to what?
To Oakland?
Oh no, not to Oakland, to Sacramento. Sacramento Athletics.
Oh,
Really?
I think so. I
Oh. But
you gotta snap those up quick.
when is the last time the Athletics were in first place after the first day of the season? Because we have to give them-
when was Moneyball?
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's just been impressive to me. I don't know. I saw that and I went, man, I can't believe the Athletics are in first place. It's like the Reds. The Reds are 17-9.
And the Angels, they got a losing season overall, but they're making noise. You know, only 3 games out of a 50-50 season. That's not bad.
No, that's
The
not-
Astros. What the?
They're
what
one of the
good-
biggest disappointments right now.
Good golly. Are they going to be sellers at the deadline? I mean, my God.
Disappointments. Astros, Red Sox,
Mariners.
Mets.
Mariners.
Yeah, but they're still okay. But look at the Mets. I mean, the Mets have been a disaster.
That was a brutal losing streak to have so early on. The Phillies are on their own losing streak.
Yeah, another one. Brutal. 8-18. Brutal. What, you would have never have thought this.
The
You
Mets-
picked the Phillies.
I picked the Phillies. I mean, and that wasn't a surprising pick. That wasn't an out on the limb pick. That was just going with the payroll, really.
Yeah.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked. Which is more surprising, the Mets or the Phillies for you guys? Because for me, it's the Mets. Because the Phillies,
I think it's the
because
Phillies
they're
for me.
so top heavy, if you do not have that talent averaging itself out, I can see where that goes. The Mets actually had a kind of a good overall team. Like they yes, they went and got Juan Soto, but they seem to fill out around the edges this offseason and try to put forth like just a round team, and it's failing spectacularly.
I think it's the Phillies because I think the Mets lost enough to like offset themselves, whereas the Phillies I don't think really lost much at all. They shouldn't.
This is the same
Just 10
team.
in a row.
This is the same team that was yeah, that's funny. This is the same team that was the only team that you were really afraid of as a Dodger fan on the way to the World Series last year. Yeah.
Last year, they were the second best team in baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, but they're just 10 in a row. That's just a disaster.
Who could have also predicted the number one team in the NL West? The San Diego Padres.
By half game after the start they had.
Yeah. 8-2 there.
Well, the Dodgers got hit with injuries, which is what happens every year,
Diamondbacks
Yeah.
are 3 above 500 too. I mean,
which is what we expected. They're a 500 team.
And their closer is tied for the second most saves in the MLB.
we expected this.
No, we didn't.
I was.
Are you worried at all about Edwin Diaz over there?
No, he'll be back
Okay.
second half of the season.
Because I mean, the bodies in arm, when we start getting into like making pluralities upon like if somebody were to say, they're worried about the knees and his leg, I'd worry about that.
He had stuff in his elbow and they
Yeah.
had successful surgery. It's all gone. No, he'll be fine.
What about Sasaki?
Am I worried about him? No, because I
Because
don't.
when Blake Snell comes back, who's the first pitcher that I think is going to get
Yeah.
sent down to AAA?
Right, and rightfully so. I mean, no, I don't think he'll get sent down to AAA. I think what you're going to see is when Snell comes back, which he just pitched in Ontario last night or the night before. So he's on the road. He'll be back here in about a week or two. I think Sasaki goes to the bullpen. I think that's what happens.
Can you ask that of a starter? I mean, you know how
Yeah, because he did it in the World Series. He did it in the
That's a
playoffs.
World Series. That's not a regular season.
I take him. I put him in the bullpen, and I let him get some work in there. You build some confidence. Give him some middle relief stuff. Maybe even use him on the back end. And once he starts getting his confidence back,
Do you agree with me though, Luke? As far as like whenever you're talking and asking of a player, I think there are times and places in a season and a season in its entirety that you can ask more and ask a player to
Sure.
swallow their pride, whether that be and the most you can ask of them is in the playoffs and the closer you get to the championship. Look at Austin Reeves. When Austin Reeves comes back, and if you ask him now where he's coming back injured to play a Manu role, to be where I think he naturally fit in the entire season, but you couldn't because he was on a contract year, to be the sixth man, lead you off the bench and be the number one scoring option off the bench. I think you can now ask that of him because he was injured and come back. Do you think for Roki Sasaki that you can ask him are we even a third of the way into the season? I mean, we're kind of close. To then just say, hey, we know that you're a young pitcher who wants starting pitcher eligible status, that we're going to put you into the bullpen and all but slot you there for life?
not live.
I mean, it's definitely not slotting him in for life. And I think you can. I really do. I think that you saw him last year not be particularly great. He had 8 starts, had a 4.5 ERA, nothing spectacular. He's off to a terrible start this year. I think you absolutely can. The D-backs are actually doing it with Brandon Pfaadt right now. They moved him to the bullpen. He got like 6. He was a stretch arm in the bullpen. He ended
How
up
old is Pfaadt?
Huh?
How old is Pfaadt?
I think he's
Is he
either
the same age?
he's either about the same age or maybe
He's like 24, 25.
yeah, he's like
isn't he? Okay.
I would assume he's right around the exact same age.
I think I
But
should have Sasaki so much younger in my mind. But
yeah, I mean, yeah, he's 24. Pfaadt's
Sasaki's-
actually older.
Sasaki's like 23. I think.
that's what I thought.
Sasaki, I'm looking at it right now. He is 24.
Okay.
He turns 25 this year.
Who, Sasaki?
Sasaki.
Okay.
Okay.
Pfaadt is 27.
Oh, wow. I thought he was that
So
old.
he's even older. And I think to me, what it is it's not like it's borderline. It's not like it's we could go one way or the other. It's like you have been bad. Like you've been bad enough to where you really don't have an argument against what we're saying. And I think that's the key difference here. So go to the bullpen, work maybe 2 to 4 innings at a time, build up the confidence like Ralph said, and then come back.
We have a lot of texts we didn't read. All hockey related. Goodness gracious. What have we got? Tusks up. That's good. Penguins getting swept today, Ralph. You got that one. They have a great young team with a great young prospect. The Mammoth, the best series is Tampa, Montreal. The Wild, that's a lot of animals there. And the Oakland A's of Sacramento.
Yeah, a lot of logo animals in hockey. I actually
hate talking about hockey because all you guys do is talk about animals. Rich, I'm going to have you be a guest so we can come and have some real hockey talk. Anyway, hey guys, that's our show. It went pretty quick today. So thanks for joining us. Have a great rest of your weekend. And guess what? We won't be back next week. We'll be back the week after. We're taking the next week off, but we'll